Welcome everybody to a guide. Yeah, it has been a long time, but I'm finally back playing football. For now at least. In the time I get to spend with you guys, I would like to make an archive of the knowledge I've gathered over the last 4 years of playing this game in the form of guides. First off, is something I am known most for. It is also something I feel like is very underrated and misunderstood in this community. I'm talking about the skill of passing. It is commonly overlooked by most players, and I noticed people really don't use passing to its full potential yet. In the end of this guide, you will know everything I know about passing. However, you won't be a great passer instantly. Like everything in life, this does require practice, and the result might take several months for you to notice. Well, let's get started. This guide will be divided in 5 sections. Defensive passing, GK passing, mid and striker passing, don'ts, and when not to pass. We'll start off by the defensive passing, as it is the single most important position as a passer. Defenders always have an amazing overview of the field, and as a result, their passing capabilities are crucial to the success of their team. The difference between a passing defender and a non-passing defender is huge, and cannot be underestimated. So what can you do to improve your passing game as a defender? Well, first of all, there's something that is important for all positions. Know where your teammates are at all times. Check around you frequently to see where everyone is walking and already have a pass in mind before you even receive the ball. It is important that you know that as a defender you don't want to take any risks with the ball. Go for safe plays. It is good to pass low over the ground, as this makes the ball much harder to intercept for your opponents. This is due to the fact that they can't double jump into it. Always try to go for ground passes. They are simply the most effective pass to use. Sometimes when there's no clear ground pass opportunity, you are forced to give a high ball. Never just lob the ball forward with no intentions. This is a waste of possession most of the time. When you give a ball, don't put the ball at jump height. If you allow defenders to jump at the ball, they will most likely win. The best thing you can do is send the ball as high as possible forward to one of your attackers. This at least gives them a 50% chance of winning the duel, and it also makes it harder for the opponents to clear the ball. The only exception to the step is if you are performing pre-jump. Performing a pre-jump as a defender is generally a bad idea, but sometimes it can catch the opponents off guard. This is also the only exception to no risky play. We will get into pre-jumps later on. Try to use the walls to your full advantage. As a defender, you often find yourself in situations where the ball will be in both the reach of you and the goalkeeper. If this is the case, always let your GK have the ball. Instead of taking it, make the field wide by going to a sidewall. By doing this, you create an extra passing option for your GK. Don't be afraid to pass the ball back to your GK. Luckily, I've noticed a bunch more people doing this recently. What is the use of this, you might ask? Passing the ball back is something people don't encounter very often. Because of this, if you do pass the ball back, the entire enemy team is out of position. Your GK can quickly give a ground pass to the other side of the field, or find another clever passing lane, making for a super scary attack. It is kind of my little secret, but here it is. You know one of my best strategies now. Here are a few examples. This is also a nice bridge to our next topic, the GK position. In football, you often come across goalkeepers that can only pull off saves but don't have the capability of passing the ball around. In my opinion, it is better to have a passing GK with mediocre saves than a GK that can pull off the craziest saves. Think of players like my teammate Jay, your mother, and Worm. These goalkeepers can all pass the ball around fluently, and this is what makes them top tier goalkeepers. It's not their amazing saves, even though they're very capable of pulling them off. No, it's mostly about the way they can pass. If you want to become one of these elite keepers, listen up. It is quite simple but hard at the same time. It is important you take your time as a goalkeeper, but it is also important that you act fast. It sounds confusing, but it's pretty straightforward. When you are not under pressure, take your time with the ball. Maybe stop it at your feet, and by crouching and looking down, take a breather, take a look around the field. When taking your time, you can see a lot more than when you were just rushing the clearance. It allows your team to make runs, and it allows them to get open for a pass that was maybe not possible before. If you are getting pressured, you need to act fast. Under this pressure, you often make mistakes that you wouldn't otherwise make, like passing the ball to an enemy, for example. When you get pressure, try to clear the ball out of reach of the pressure. This is very important. If you don't, the chance of a goal is pretty high. Like any position, you should know where your teammates are. If you see someone open, pass to them as fast as possible over the ground. If everyone is marked, lob in as high as possible pass to one of your teammates, once again creating a 50-50. Now for midfielders and attackers, the passing rules are quite the same. I don't think there is a big difference between midfield and attack in this game. There are generally 2 players in each team that have both roles at once. In these positions, passing becomes much more technical and hard to pull off. You are constantly under pressure and you need to act fast and unpredictable. There are a few tricks that can make you a better attacker instantly. I'm currently the only one that does this, but I really feel like they must be shared, seeing how effective they are. Y'all better thank me for this info, by the way. I'm literally giving away my entire notebook to everyone. First of all, because passing in the midfield is so high-paced, you don't even get the time to look around you. It is very important that you know your teammates and how they position themselves. As a midfielder, you literally have to know where your teammates are without even looking. It sounds hard, but this all comes with experience. You come to see that most good players behave kind of the same way. The most important thing in passing is variation. If you give the same type of pass multiple times, your opponents will adapt and you won't connect any of your passes. This is why I will be telling you multiple ways you can perform a pass as a midfielder. First, it is important to know how to get to the back wall of your opponent effectively. The best way you can do this is by a bait. You bait your opponents by doing a setup. This can either be a no-hit lob or a pass to yourself using the ceiling. People will often jump for this. You can abuse this by hitting it as soon as possible, catching them off guard. I came to find that no-hit lobs work best for the strategy. By using the bait, you can outplay your direct opponent and easily dribble to your opponent's back wall. It leaves your challenger completely out of position and it grants you several seconds of free time. If the defender predicts the bait, he can fall back to his own back wall. If you see this happen, you can go for a pre-jump using the setup that you already performed. Once you are at the back wall, you can do a number of things. A ground pass, but one that is slightly backwards. To my surprise, people still don't do this, even though it has helped me a ton. By passing the ball slightly backwards like this, you can often reach a teammate without the interception of an opponent. Always remember, passing is not about giving it perfectly in the feet all the time. The goal of a pass is to arrive. Its goal is never to look perfect. Pass the ball where you know your teammates will reach it first. Don't pass to where it looks the fanciest. You can, for example, pass the ball behind your teammate. If that is sure he gets to it first, it's a good pass. It doesn't have to look good. If it works, it works. Pass to keep possession, not to beat 3 defenders with 1 pass. This doesn't work. Another thing you can do is start a dribble to then give an unexpected pass in the middle of it. This is usually a pre-jump, but you can also pass to someone that is on the ground. A mistake I see a majority of the players make is that they are too focused on going forward. They forget they have teammates that are still behind them. Defenders usually don't mark these people. Why won't you pass to them? They are usually completely free, but if you are too fixated on going forward, you always miss these opportunities. Not every pass has to be an assist. Another thing you can do is use the backboard to pass like this. At this point, you might be wondering how to do a pre-jump. Well, it's just a normal medium height pass, but the receiver has already jumped before you pass. Hence the name pre-jump. This concept seems easy, but it requires a lot of communication with your teammates. There are also variants of the pre-jump. You've noticed I have called the name pre-jump up until this point a bunch of times already. You can implement pre-jumps in all of those examples, but there are still a few different ways to perform one. You have pre-jumps with setup, without setup, and even fakes. These fakes are not used a lot, but can be quite effective if your opponent is constantly intercepting your pre-jumps. You pretty much fake the setup and then give it without a setup. Another tip I have for midfielders is using the ceiling to reach your teammates. This completely negates opponents that are standing in your passing lane, and it also gives your teammate a fair 50-50 with the defender. Sometimes they don't even have to get into a 50-50. This pass is very strong if used correctly. If you're being marked, but you can still be passed to, usually when you hug the sidewall, you can pre-fire a high ball to your teammate. If you don't do this, your opponent will most likely win the duel. People also don't expect a quick play like this. With the right game knowledge, you can sense when people are out of position. Sometimes you just see a creative opportunity to give an amazing pass. These are things I can simply not cover in this tutorial, but I will tell you this. Trust your instincts and act in the moment. If you see an opportunity, take it. Here's a few examples of when I did this. If you pass all the time, people will expect you to do it again. It can therefore be very strong to go for solo dribble instead. People will mark you less when you have a reputation as a passer, and they will often pre-fire passing lanes or try to challenge you as soon as possible. If you can read these situations, you can go for a simple double touch and score an easy goal. Here's a few things you should never do when passing. Do classic crosses. These crosses used to work 3 years ago, but forget about them. They are completely useless against good defenders nowadays. Pass in front of goal. Don't cross the ball in front of goal. This is a terrible idea and it usually results in a goal for your opponents. Try to avoid giving stressful passes to your defender and goalkeeper. Just try to pass as little as possible near your own goal. Pass balls at medium height. It gives the defender a huge advantage. Exceptions are pre-jumps or if you see an opportunity for a through ball. Take too much time. Try to be fast but not too fast. Make sure you take your time to scan the field and everyone on it. But you should try to do this as quickly as possible. I don't know if that made sense. If you wait too long, defenders can adjust their position to the situation. When you receive the ball, try to get rid of it as soon as possible while not wasting possession. And do one passing strategy all the time. You will get predictable and you will be countered very easily. Variation, variation, variation. I can't stress enough how important it is. Give through balls when someone is free. Try to pass to someone exactly the right distance so he can walk into the ball. This is how most players like their passes. If someone is free, pass to them so they can get a no-hit on it basically. And always pass to the most free teammate. This video might seem overwhelming, but in reality, it is all just practice. Maybe you will have to adjust your current playstyle for this, but in the end, it will be worth it. Eventually, you will do all of this on feeling. Just remember that this will take time. Don't get discouraged if you cannot do it immediately. In my opinion, being a good passer is a lot harder and scarier to deal with than being a good dribbler. Just give it time and keep practicing. Thank you all for watching.